Welcome to month 3 of playing one single player game per month to find that childlike wonder that I once felt in my youth. I would venture to say that this is the closest I've been yet. It is my honor to welcome you to Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Have you heard of Lethal League Blaze? It's a pseudo fighting game where instead of hitting the other character, you're actually hitting a ball that will then hit the other character. As you hit the ball more and more, it'll go faster and faster. There's counterplay mechanics, like you can grab out of a parry, but you can't hit out of a parry, that type of thing. Different characters have different trajectories for how the ball will go once they hit it, and you can also control those depending on the direction you're holding. Different characters have supers and stuff, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Overall, it was a game that was super interesting to play. It had a lot of really in-depth mechanics that you wouldn't kind of notice at first. As you played it more, you would kind of learn these things. But funny enough, I've never actually played the original game. I've only played Lethal League Blaze, which is kind of like the sequel to Lethal League. So as a fan of this game and a fan of the development team that made it by proxy, I was very excited to see that when they announced a new game that was in a similar art style to Jet Set Radio and a similar game to Jet Set Radio, I was very intrigued by it. I mean, the only game I know Team Reptile for has been super impressive to me, so of course I'm gonna like, hey, what are they working on next? How is this game gonna go? No, I've never played Jet Set Radio. I've only ever heard about it, and it seemed like me to a game that kind of lived and died by its generation, by the time period it came from. Of course, I now know that that's not true, but I got that kind of idea in my head because every time the game came up, it was always about the game's music. It was never about the gameplay. It was never about the story. It was the music. And of course, I've been enlightened now. I've listened to the soundtrack for both of these games now, and they're both bangers. I definitely understand why Jet Set Radio's soundtrack has just got that staying power. Even going as far as to have similar artists like Hideki Nakanuma has worked on both of the OSTs. But anyway, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. That's the name of the game that they made. It came out in 2023, and of course I had a passing interest in it, but I never actually got around to playing it. And once I found out that it released to a very positive reception amongst the Jet Set Radio heads, I was way more intrigued to play it this month. So I think that's enough rambling and introduction. Let's just get into the gameplay. Boom, establishing shot. We're at the police bureau. There's people running, there's explosions, lock the rear gate, and then we get the reveal of our character, the main character, and he looks like his name is Conrad. I don't know, I guess when I thought about a main character for this type of game, they didn't look like this. I feel like I knew him in middle school. Anyway, this really cool looking dude with a damn speaker backpack getup thing walks in. I don't care who you are, this is motherfucking drip, baby. Like, bro, let me pull up with the biggest puffer jacket known to mankind and the biggest collar I could find with a backpack with speakers in it, bro. Like, it's over at the function. And by function, I mean maybe a restaurant. I don't know. I don't go outside. Anyway, this dude is booking it by the time we get out of our jail cell. We then find this hole in the roof, which if you ask my dad is a job with cut corners. But if you were to ask my mom, that's an alien abduction, baby. The Greys are here. They've been here since 43. But this dude tells us his name. His name turns out to be Trice, which is super cool. And then our character shares his name, which, contrary to how he looks, is actually a really cool name. His name is Foe, which is a name that Trice actually recognizes, which makes me think that, like, there's more to Foe than just being a stand-in main character. Like, there might actually be story connected to him prior to the game starting. But we have to move on. You know, I'm not gonna dig on that too much. We have the whole game to get to learn everything about Foe. Oh, okay, all right. Well, this game's not fucking around. Team Reptile, you're a bunch of murderers. Okay, we cut, then we get to see our new crew members doing some street urchin hip-hop adjacent activities like texting and breakdancing at the same time. And not together. But that's right, we are the latest member of the Bomb Rush crew. It's me, Trice, and Belle with this rubber ducky you're the one ass fit on. But this is our new hideout. It's a place where we can kind of get to learn the mechanics, do whatever we want, spray as much spray paint on the walls as we want, and not have to worry about any kind of outside factors. It's literally no stakes. It's also home to one of the best songs in the soundtrack. Like switch, like this, priceless, like this. wait. I died. How am I here right now? They gave me a new head. Not only that, but it's a standard issue cyber head, which just means that they just be doing this shit. This is just a regular Tuesday for them. Trice says this is only until we can get Foe's head back, which again, horrifying implications there. Like, no wonder all people do is skate around and hang out and listen to music. Like, could you imagine working a retail job with robots that could just cuss you out like old people do? Like, if these are all robots, can we like turn them off? Is that morally or ethically okay? Is that just something we can do? I don't know. I just have so many questions about this world just off rip. Hey bro, hey, don't don't do that. Don't do that. I just lost my head and you're smacking me upside my new head. Don't do that. Anyways, my new name is Red, which I think is pretty fitting, and it took some gruesome stuff to get there, but this is more looking like the main character I was assuming that the main character would look like for a game like this. But we got a little bit of the movement in the police bureau earlier, but Belle is now giving us the rest of that tutorial, and Trice tells us that in this world, it's all about getting up and getting out there. And to do that, you need to gain rep. And to gain rep, you need to spray paint as many things as possible. So he shows us how to do that, and then he tells us that he had one goal in mind when starting the Bomb Rush crew. It is to go all city. And to do that, we need to defeat all the crews in New Amsterdam, which if you would have told me this game took place in New Amsterdam, I would not have believed you. After a quick Google search, I learned that there are like 6 New Amsterdams in the world, so I guess it could just vary wildly. He then goes on to tell us that Foe was one of the best writers that the city had ever seen. He was one of the big 3. So if we can get Foe's head back, he can join the Bomb Rush crew, and then it'd be a piece of cake to go all city. The problem with that is that DJ Cyber, the person who offed Foe at the beginning of the game, is obsessed with the inner workings of the brain, which I don't know the implications of that, but the more I'm learning about this world, the more I'm realizing that it is just batshit crazy. But yeah, DJ Cyber, I didn't talk about him too much earlier, but as somebody who loves vinyl records and hip-hop and music, I think his design is fire. I love it. And apparently he has a machine that can look into people's brains. Again, what is happening? But DJ Cyber actually runs the most powerful crew in the city that also happen to have the hardest name out of all of them in the game, Futurism. That's enough exposition though. What is it like to play the game? We immediately get access to the first borough of the game, home of the Franks, these Frankenstein looking dudes. You see, on the road to go all city, we are starting small. The main gameplay loop of the game is you enter the ops territory, you spray paint over all of their logos until they notice you, and then you do a crew battle. Whoever wins the crew battle keeps the space. The crew battles are pretty straightforward. They give you 2 minutes of time, and then you go and do as many tricks as you can. Whoever has the highest score by the end of it, that team gets to keep the space. And these crew battles are actually judged by the old heads, which as a faction are just completely inconsequential in the game, but they're cool to see. But once we're let loose, I quickly figured out why people like Jet Set Radio. If the gameplay for that is anything like this game, I understand it now. There's just a feng shui to the game. There's just a swag to it that is just infectious. And after seeing this, I definitely understand why Jet Set Radio would have become a cult classic. But there's this really cool moment of camaraderie when you're just kind of skating, doing your own thing, you're building your rep, and you just cross paths with one of your crewmates. And then all of a sudden, you guys are just carving it up on these rails right next to each other, moving like a unit. I don't know, there's something about that feeling to me that like, whoa, this game is really cool. That feeling was really cool. Like, this is my actual crew. It's not just me being let loose and doing everything for the crew. That feeling was just really powerful for me, and it comes up a few times, and it's one of those things that like, man, I really see the vision of what they were going for this game now. Because like up until this point, like the gameplay's cool, you know, the visuals are sick, I love the music, all that stuff, but that stuff wasn't going to keep me for hours and hours of gameplay. This feeling will though. But we then throw our art up in the Franks area, which causes us to meet the Flesh Prince. I cringe at that name every time I read it, so I'm just going to call him Bling Bling Boy, because that is also what he looks like. We learned that Bling Bling Boy actually put us together. He put the Robo head on top of our body, so he's my dad, I guess. But apparently when this happened, he told Trice to bring us back for a checkup after some time, so Trice had some ulterior motives here, but that's alright. This cutscene actually ends kind of weird with Belle just walking away, and Red follows her to find a pile of heads that look like his and other spare parts for robots. I think this is supposed to be some kind of like turning point for Red in some way, but with the lack of facial expressions and the Bomb Rush crew not letting him stew on it at all, I just don't really know what they were going for with this scene. But before we can leave, we get cut off from our crew and 12 shows up. We spray paint this probably $32 billion military hovercraft, and that defeats it somehow. I think they should kind of look into that a little bit. But that then causes this character to get out and go toe-to-toe with the best rider in the city, baby. And I didn't talk about this character earlier. We actually fought this character a little bit before Foe's head got cut off. This character was kind of the end of like the little tutorial area. I mean, but this time she got the switch with her though, so I'm not messing around. Luckily, it just fires the handcuff things, which just kind of messes with movement a little bit. It's nothing crazy. But I think this fight actually really pisses off Red because he just pushes a Frank to the side, walks right up to Bling Bling Boy, and declares that like this is a call out. It's time for my first crew battle. But because it was my first crew battle, I just basically blew them out of the water. The mechanics are pretty straightforward, so I picked them up pretty quickly. I will say, when you win a crew battle in this game, the old heads pointing, the noise they make, the timing between that and when the music starts and Red starts dancing, it's like the biggest hit of dopamine in the whole game. Yo. It's just times like that that remind me like this game is for fun. They're not trying to do anything crazy. The story's not going to be super in depth. It's not going to keep me up at night thinking about it or anything. Their goal was just to make a fun game, and those moments are just pure fun. The fun doesn't last long though, because DJ Cyber then shows up in his Batmobile adjacent thing, which is honestly harder because it's drifting and shit. Not only that, I learned later, the wheels are vinyl records. Come on. We do get to learn a little bit more about DJ Cyber here though. We learn that to DJ Cyber that the code of the street is the most important thing to him, as Bling Bling Boy and the Franks were not going to honor the crew battle victory. They were just going to be like, nah, screw you, we're keeping our place. But he enforces that. I did laugh at Bling Bling Boy calling the old heads vintage farts though. I will definitely be using that. But in response to this, Trice pipes up and turns to the old heads and goes, hey, Cyber's not following the code of the streets himself. Like, you guys need to enforce that. He is killing people. Code of the street is like, hey, this is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be having fun. We're supposed to be just wreaking havoc, no actual harm done. But through all of this, like, the game does something really weird where it'll just make random words yellow. I learned later that this is for emphasis, but by this point in the game, I was exhausted because I thought these were all going to be mechanics that would come up later when that's just not the case. These are just emphasis. You know, like Trice says here, we can't all drop hard mixtapes, leading to me having like the genuine thought of like, hey, can I make music in this game? Like, this game got music mechanics too or what? But nope, they just made that yellow for fun. Red tries to then rush DJ Cyber. He gets stopped by this chick with the blue hair, and then we get a little bit more of an exposition dump from DJ Cyber. He tells us that he's actually one of the big three, and without the big three, the city would be in disarray. He then puts Red into his sex chamber and sends him to his subconscious, which are some of the coolest looking areas in the game and also some of the most fun areas of the game to actually skate around in. I don't care, bro. This is aura. This is essence right here. I am the spectator of your imagination. Bro, come on. That shit is hard. But we get to the end of this area. We spray paint some stuff. Foe is actually inside of our head, which is crazy. It inspires all these questions. What is going on? Why is he in there? If you're like me, you're assuming that it's because, hey, you know, Foe's body, you know, robot head, it's probably pulling what it can from muscle memory or whatever. I don't know. We wake up and Cyber says that if we can go all city before futurism, we can make him give Foe's head back, which is crazy to me because, like, we're like 3 dudes. He's rolling with a crew 50 people deep. I don't understand how, like, how do we make you do anything? But now Trice, Bell, and Red all have aligning goals. We get the head back if we go all city, and vice versa. We go all city if we get the head back. Back at the hideout, Red is lamenting his life, asking himself stuff like, who do I owe this body to? He then turns to Trice and asks him about Foe, like just extra information, because at this point, as much information as possible is going to help. We then get more context about the big 3. There's Foe, who is apparently quiet and highly skilled. There's DJ Cyber, who we know from the story. And then a third, Felix. The only information we get about Felix right here is that he just doesn't use a boost pack, something that every other character in the game uses. All 3 of them came up together in a friendly rivalry. They pushed each other to be better delinquents. But in the end, Felix won. He had painted all of the city. He had become the best writer that New Amsterdam had ever seen. But at the top of his notoriety, Felix suddenly turned up dead, and Trice seems to think that Foe and Cyber know something about it. But in Felix's stead, Cyber turned his crew into a totalitarian regime, enforcing the code to a T. And when you break the code, you now become an enemy of everybody because nobody wants to be on Cyber's bad side. We also learn that Cyber is actually wearing Felix's mask, which to me is a telltale sign that Cyber was there when Felix died, just because, like, bro, there's no way that, like, the cops found the body and was like, hey, you're like one of our most wanted people of all time. You're at the top of our criminal list. Here's your friend's mask, though. Anyways, power vacuum, yada yada. That's kind of the end of that. We then turn our sights to the next crew, which is Eclipse, which are apparently girl bosses who are into astrology. No further comment. Hey, they be killing them dance moves, though. Hold on. They got some of my favorite moves in the whole game. But a little extra exposition before we get let loose on Eclipse. We get a cop jump scare. We find that they want to catch Foe, who they know is Red, and they want to use him for the program, whatever that is. And the other important thing that we learn here is that Foe's dad is actually a cop. The best part about this scene is that they're just sitting in an office, talking, presumably just calmly, and the music is just freaking it right now. That shit is going crazy, bro. Moving into Eclipse space, though, we find that they're talking to a dumpster. Psych, it is a crash dummy. This is Solace, a character and a kid that I have a really hard time trying to figure out. I'd like to tell you where I'm at. He describes himself as a claustrophobic masochist. What? What? Anyway, Trice tells him what we are up to as a crew, and we're like, hey, we're trying to get Eclipse. We're trying to get him out of here. So he's like, hey, they're my friends. Let me go get them for you. We then immediately find him chained to a fence, which to me is an assassination attempt. Have you ever been hung upside down for more than 30 seconds? That shit is a nightmare. We then get introduced to one of the new cop enemies of the game, the Sniper, which aren't too bad, not too annoying. Their sights move pretty slow, and you're supposed to be moving the whole time in the game anyway, so they just become kind of a non-issue. We defeat the Sniper, then we turn back to Eclipse, who calls Solace the Winged Harbinger. Hard name. I'm still confused. Like, does that not imply depth? Like, I feel like it does, but there's just none here. And it's times like this that I gotta remind myself, like, relax. There's no huge depth to this game. This game is just for fun. But anyways, we move on. The old heads show up. We get our second crew battle of the game. We defeat Eclipse and take their space. So really quick, I want to pause. I want to stop the momentum of the video real quick. I want to explain something. Obviously here, I'm just kind of recapping the story. But really quick, let me tell you what I'm actually doing between these story beats. We're actually going into an area, building up our rep to a certain lower threshold to have a crew member kind of challenge us to something. So the game is largely a platformer. Like, you'll see a spray paint location way at the top of a building or something, and you have to figure out how to get up there. So it's a platformer. It's kind of a puzzle game. Once our rep gets to a certain threshold, we challenge one of the crew members. These challenges range from a race to a string of tricks to can you make it from here to there without stopping your combo. And each one of these bureaus takes about an hour and a half if you're like doing it long-windedly, because each one of these has like 2 or 3 of these challenges before you get to actually do the crew battle. Yeah, I just wanted to explain that to you real quick. Let's get back to the story where Red tries to declare that the Brink Terminal, the area that we've been fighting Eclipse over, is now ours. But before he could get it out, he ends up fainting. I keep doing this with my hand. I don't know why. I'm gonna I'll cut it. We are now in Red Subconscious again, and what's really cool about this one is that there's these little planets that we're skating on, and just like the thought experiment, if you were to jump too high away from gravity, would you fall into oblivion? That is exactly what happens here, and I just thought that was really cool. We get to the end of the stage, we spray paint some things, and then we see this dude. I don't know, is he like a janitor or something? Oh my god, guys. It's Kenny Beats. Guys, look, it's... Hey, yo, how'd you make the 808s on Puff Daddy, bro? Anyway, back to the cops. We get some more details about the program. Apparently, it's a machine that's going to take security to another level to be a, quote, breakthrough in crime prevention. Still super vague, but again, we're still in the first, like, third of the game, so I'm not super worried about it. Red then wakes up in our BRC hideout. We get to celebrate our 2 borough victories so far. Then we turn our sights to the Millennium Mall and .exe, which is the next crew. So here I want to take a second and talk a little bit about the actual stages and environments that I'm skating through. So Red Subconscious aside, the first one that I actually kind of engaged with on a deeper level and like really enjoyed is this mall. You know, besides this, it's been 2 different variations of a kind of skate park, concrete park type of deal. And this one's like an actual mall, so it's really fun to just skate around a mall and not care for the safety or well-being of anybody around me. I truly am the delinquent of all time. And in the mall, we actually meet Vinyl, which is the blue-haired girl that stopped me from rushing DJ Cyber right after we beat the Franks. She says she's not liking all the head-cutting business that DJ Cyber has been partaking in as of late, and she wants to help us because if we go all city or even get close, it'll put Cyber in a bad spot. She also says that she personally knew Foe and would share more information if we beat .exe. So we try to do that, but not before this giant mech suit shows up and basically says you're the blue people now. That joke made more sense in my head. I don't know what I was going for. Anyways, this thing has rails going up its arms, which are really cool, and it's one of the better fights in the entire game. After that's defeated, we immediately go to the crew battle with .exe. Light work, beat them first try again. And after we beat them, they say that we should give up on our dream to go all city because the cops are cracking down with something called Project Algo, which is now a name that we have for whatever is going on in the cops' evil lair. So now that we finally beat .exe, Vinyl is going to share with us some information, some thankfully new information. Psych! The boss of .exe shows up dead 30 feet away from them. I have no idea. Causing Red to go into the upside down again, cue the Kate Bush. We get to skate on some fucking fish, which is super dope. We paint the thing at the end again, where Kenny Beats tells us to hold the ladder, but he can't because he's up there with him. Red then looks down to see Foe standing there at the base of the ladder, which then causes Red to wake up. We then cut to the cops somehow having Foe's head, and they're using it for Project Algo. They're going to put it in the machine. We then cut back to the hideout with Vinyl there, and she actually says she's just going to join the Bomb Rush crew, which Trice has problems with until Vinyl says, hey, I know why Red is blacking out and having these visions. She says that their memories coming back to him from his life before when he was conquering the boroughs. Red asks her whose memories they are, to which she's about to answer until...
Gotcha.
Nah, bro, this game don't give a fuck. They are offing people left and right, dude. But surprise, there's organics in the Chrome Dome. I am not entirely sure if I'm following this logic. Is this mask helmet thing made out of diamonds? Because I don't understand what material could withstand that. In a panic, because Red just took a 50 cal sniper rifle bullet to the dome at point blank and is somehow kicking, the rest of the crew panics to go find Bling Bling Boy, the person who put him together. But to find him playing as the rest of the crew, we have to backtrack a little bit and go through all of the other areas that we've conquered already. We then find Bling Bling Boy and the remnants of what's left of the Franks just in a dingy back alley. But he literally says no more when he learns that Red is hurt. He immediately flips and helps us. I don't know about you guys, but if somebody single-handedly took down everything I was trying to build throughout my life, I would not be super quick to help them. Nonetheless, light concussion. Ladies and gentlemen, this caused a light concussion. Anyway, the cat's out of the bag now. There is a real head inside of that mask, and everybody looks to Bling Bling Boy for an explanation. To which he says he was given the head because it was deteriorating and losing memories. It needed a body to go on, and with perfect timing, Foe's body showed up. Turns out that the head is not only Kenny Beats, the guy from the dream, but it's Felix. This is Felix. They don't expressly say it here. That's a reveal from like later in the game, but the foreshadowing here is not that subtle. And Red decides to be wholesome here. He says he doesn't care about any of this anymore. He just wants to go all city, and he wants to defeat DJ Cyber. Next, we arrive at an offshore energy rig run by Devil Theory. The whole thing is shaped like a pyramid. It's super cool looking. It is one of the better places to skate in the whole game. Unfortunately, I can tell there's some inspiration here, but I have no idea what Devil Theory are supposed to be. I don't know what they're designed after. I don't know what they're going for. It's just like a weird samurai mashup thing, and their dance moves don't really match the whole thing. Like, every crew up until this point had a unique vibe. The dance made sense with what they're going for in design. Maybe I'm making that up, but I just had a feeling of more cohesion with the other crews up until this point. These guys are just kind of eh. Which again sucks because this is one of the more fun areas to skate in. There's rails everywhere. But you know, life got you down. May I interest you in Dog with Tracksuit? This is the best part of the game, and I love him. But as fun as this area is to skate through, the Devil Theory just kind of give you more challenges and stuff. There's nothing really new to the gameplay loop. There is a really cool area where you have to skate along these windmill blades, which is super cool. You get a new graffiti this way. And after the crew battle for this area, this dude says, "Speak of the devil and he doth appear." Boy, I ought to smack the shit out of you. What are you talking about? What are you saying to me right now? He doth appear. Get the fuck out of here. You think this is Sherlock Holmes, bro? Again, all the other crews had lingo and stuff. I don't don't know what that's supposed to be. Solus has just been in this porta potty for the last hour and a half that I've been grinding around this area. Even Trice calls him a degenerate this time around. But he then says that the guy in the picture that Bell took with Red, with half of his mask gone, he says that the guy under the mask is his friend. He's about to reveal that this is Felix to the rest of the cast, but then we hear Vinyl yelling. DJ Cyber is holding her by the throat and drops her into a giant cylinder, and Red tells Cyber that he would just straight up lose if it was a 1v1. To which, surprisingly, Cyber agrees, so we finally get to fight Cyber for the first time in the entire game. And at first, I was floundering a little bit. I had to learn the mechanics of the fight, but all in all, it was a really cool fight. And once I beat him, he takes off his mask, which then sends Red back into the Shadow Realm, where we then get a scene of Vinyl telling Felix that doing a night session with Foe is a bad idea. Felix insists that Foe can change, and he expresses a little bit of remorse around the idea that he hasn't spoken to Foe since he made the decision to go solo for All City. Cut to them actually doing the job, and Foe is holding the ladder while Felix is at the top of it tagging. Foe asks Felix why he doesn't use a boost pack, which sends Felix into a fit of some sort, causing Red to wake up, and this happens. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Get his ass, Red. Let's go. I was low-key mad that Cyber's reaction to getting punched in the face here was this Marvel movie ass, I guess I had that one coming. Like, bro, get the fuck. You've been causing so much problems. You're a literal murderer. But this is where we finally get the reveal that Red is, in fact, Felix. Cue the air horn. I know I'm not really playing up this reveal in the video, but for me, when I was playing through the game, the foreshadowing was just so heavy that like this wasn't a big reveal at all. There was no impact for me here. Trice then tells us that this was actually the plan between Vinyl and Cyber. This whole thing was a setup to try to get Red to remember his identity again. We also get the explanation to the rest of the crew about everything that we already know. They learn about the cops, they learn that they have Foe's head and that they're using it for Project Algo. Which, I'll be honest, this part is still crazy to me because we're just supposed to trust DJ Cyber now. Like, he's still an actual murderer? He still kills people? Or is this like a social commentary that if we can resurrect people, killing becomes not as taboo? I don't know. Cyber says that Foe is trying to kill every single writer in the city, and the .exe boss was just the beginning. Which in my head, for some reason, I didn't think that we were going to get that explained at all. I didn't think that the death of that boss was going to come back. I, for whatever reason, thought that that was just to get us back to the hideout. And Cyber put us through this gauntlet because apparently Felix knows whatever Foe's weakness is, but Red still doesn't. He doesn't fully have that identity back yet. Cut to the police station. The commander is dead. Foe did it, and he's about to do it to this chick. She has a name. I don't remember what it is, and I couldn't pronounce it anyway. Back at the hideout, we established that with all the other major crews down, Futurism would want to hit hard and fast. So we make the plan to just go and hit Matan now, which Matan is their area. Matan is actually this really cool area. It's got like a Cyberpunk meets Roaring 20s type of aesthetic to it that I really dig. You may be asking right now, if DJ Cyber is on our side, why is Futurism still our enemies? Me too. They don't explain it. At one point, I feel like I remember them saying something along the lines of, it's part of the code of the street. You know, I'd like to read this code because either it is very contrived and oddly specific, or it is just so long that it covers every single base possible. Anyways, I take on all the challenges. We get into the crew battle, which I actually lost this crew battle twice. The first time I just chose a bad initial line and just kind of floundered from there. The second time I barely lost by 50,000 points. When I beat them, I was pissed that I was losing at this baby game. So I did the gamer lean forward, I locked in, and I damn near tripled their score. Don't fuck with the virtual skateboarding messiah. Cyber then asks us if we want head, to which Red says, nah, I got one and I'm content with it. Cyber then coerces Red into the torture chamber one more time, and we get the full reveal of the story that happened between the big three. Foe is jealous that Felix achieved the title of All City King and kicks the ladder out from underneath him, making him plummet to his demise through a fan on some Mortal Kombat shit. Felix's body then lands inside the hideout for the Franks, where DJ Cyber and Bling Bling Boy were already there talking. This is also how Cyber knew exactly who and what we were at the beginning of the game. Cyber then also says that is why he tried to kill Foe at the beginning of the game at the police station. Also, apparently Solace saw the whole thing because he's a genuine fan of Felix. And this is also why he said that Felix was his friend when he saw the photo of the tattoo on his face. In this moment with DJ Cyber is when Felix remembers remembers who he is. Red now has his full identity as Felix again, and he makes the conscious decision to go after Foe for what he's done. But surprise, Foe brings the fight to us, and Solace, in all of his excitement, actually tells Foe that Red is Felix, because he didn't know that before, and that just pisses Foe off even more because the job wasn't done. But anyways, it's final battle time with an enemy that we already fought earlier in the game. It was a cool fight. It was the same fight as earlier in the game, but it was really cool to see the dap up between Felix and Trice once the big bad was defeated. Psych, introducing Mechadusa. Shout out to all the Terrarians out there. So this big snake looking dude immediately, and I mean immediately, kills Red/Felix. I mean, because realistically, what are a bunch of skaters with spray paint cans gonna do against this military grade giant multi-trillion-dollar machine that a police bureau somehow has? So after we get decapitated for the third time in the freaking story, the cop lady from earlier shows up with Felix's original body. This cop is now the GOAT. I like her a lot. We get the head back on. We're Felix all through and through now. Felix immediately decides to go after Foe to save Solace. I forgot that he took Solace. I don't care about this character, but that's why we go chase him. I don't know, because if it were me, I'd be out the state. I'd be gone, dude. If I got decapitated and somehow lived to tell the tale, I'm out. Get me as far away from that thing as possible. But now it's time for the real final boss fight. We attack him in a tangle of rails that surround him, hitting all of his weak spots as they show themselves. This fight actually kind of annoyed me because you spend the entire game up until this point learning how to control the character, right? You know, it's a free camera. You can use the directional keys and actually turn along with the camera and use one or the other depending on the situation. But for the last fight, and arguably the moment that the entire game is preparing you for, they lock the camera, making it so you have to relearn how to skate in a weird way on the fly. So because of this locked camera, as you're skating around and falling and jumping and all this stuff, you gotta kind of just guess on where your character is. You don't fully know where it is you're falling. I missed rails multiple times during this fight. It's a minor annoyance though. It's just one of those things that I wanted to mention because the fight was still cool overall and I was actually very satisfied with it. Once we beat him, we get the big final reveal of the game, which unfortunately was not really a reveal to us. It was just a reveal to the rest of the cast of the game, because the big reveal was the fact that Felix knew Foe's dad was a cop, something that I guess is a cardinal sin in street culture. Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, this reveal fell flat for me. Even though I had forgotten that detail in the back of my mind, I was still like, oh, okay. Alright, it's still a cool note to leave the fight off on though, especially with the rest of the crew joining in to finish him off. No diddy. The achievement you get for beating the final boss of the game is called Now Go Outside. Thank you, but I don't think I will. Back at the hideout, Trice announces that the Bomb Rush crew is officially all city. Huge W. I love the message behind this game, especially this line here at the end that says, so they got up and made a change. But there are things that you can't change. Your age, your roots. You better own and rock that shit. That is gas pack right there, bro. The end of the game is a shot of everybody dancing, good vibes all around, but I gotta say, Grandpa's stealing the show here. He must have got some new hips or something. This dude's on fire right now. But cut to the credits, and that's the end of the game. All in all, I liked my time with this game. There's a lot to like here. The game isn't too long, the story beats happen fairly consistently. Normally after this point of the video, I would switch to a voiceover, more critical commentary of the game, but I don't feel the need to do that with this one. Look, this game isn't marketing and, you know, touting around a big in-depth story that's gonna make you think. It's a very simple story, and I think the devs know that. Like, it seems like their goal was to just make a game that holds up to Jet Set Radio, that is a love letter to Jet Set Radio. And I think in that they did an amazing job here. I think they accomplished exactly what they set out to do. And I don't want to bog that down by, you know, displaying all the plot holes and displaying all the gameplay headaches. And there honestly isn't a lot of things I can point at in the first place that are that crazy or that negative. So I don't want to make a whole portion of the video that explains them and talks about them in depth, because it may put on display something that I didn't actually feel too deeply about. I don't want to make these little things seem like they're more of an issue than they actually are. So I will say this. I did leave out a couple story things here and there, some of the B-plot stuff, just a little bit. The gameplay is amazing, and I think you should absolutely check this game out. Team Reptile, you have absolutely outdone yourselves. As for you, the person who sat here and watched this entire video, thank you. It means more to me than you know. And I want to just leave you with this. Just be you. There's a true self within you that you keep suppressing. Let him out. Let him breathe. Start your bloom. I'll see you in the next one. so glad to be done. This shit is hot as hell.